In Home Society, we believe that talking, discussing, and exploring ideas together is essential to the design process. Our goal is to create a platform with a new vision of micro trends within this industry of interior design, generating added value to the design lover community. Design Talks includes then interviews with leading architects, interior designers, and showrooms to discover and discuss about what's trending and the whole creative process of any project. I am Susana Ramos, and I'm honored to have today as our guest of Home Society Design Talks, Laili Gonzalez, founder of the meaZure, an interior design firm based in Zurich. Creating bespoke interiors for clients in Switzerland, the US, and Australia, the meaZure combines extensive knowledge of furnishings, project management, and renovation to design highly tailored luxury interiors. So, hello again, Leila. Thank you very much for being here with us today. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Susanna, for having me. It's a pleasure for me as well.
So it is mentioned in a previous interview that one of your aims is to help your clients create homes that inspire and fill them with joy while meeting their practical needs. Could you tell us a little bit more about your story as a designer and how you have been sparkling joy through interior design?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I love about design is that it has a really transformative capacity. Design helps us take something that's completely blank or even a space that's, deteriorating in bad shape and create something beautiful. And fundamentally, the thing about beauty is that it's subjective, right? What I find attractive and beautiful might seem busy or overwhelming to one person, or not busy enough and too plain to someone else. And what I try to do is to really empower my clients when I work with them to tap into who they are, how they live, and then turn that into a visual story. I take their interests, their lifestyles, their cultures, and all the things that they're attracted to, and really weave it together to create a home environment that they love. Ultimately, I think my goal is that when my client enters their home, they feel happy to be there. They feel supported by and connected to the space around them.
They feel literally at home.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the goal.
Yes. Do you believe that these influences from various cultures and places where you have lived so far and worked as well, having influenced your style and way of working? And in what way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the first thing is that, I was a first generation American. So my family is Iranian, and growing up in the US, my home was always super different from that of my friends. It was full of a lot of very beautiful, objects, art, a lot of bright colors. And like any good Persian family, a lot of rugs. But comfort wasn't really the main focus of our living spaces. None of the rooms were like dedicated to certain things. And we just used all of the rooms in our house. And a lot of my friends, they had like a set room for television watching where they had really comfortable sofas and chairs. And then they had a formal living room and dining room that they didn't really use. Um, and I think that has influenced me a lot because I feel like a home should be used in every space. And I was also really lucky to travel from an early age. I lived in Canada and France, of course, now in Switzerland. And I've seen a lot of Europe and the Middle East. And seeing all of these different ways of living, the senses of style, what is function, ideals of beauty, each of them impacted me in a big way. And I think it allows me to have in some ways a more flexible sense of style because I understand that variability between culture, but also, it does affect your aesthetic. I know now living in Switzerland for 10 years, what I design is different than what I would have done had I stayed in the US.
Of course. And talking now about Switzerland, what were the biggest challenges of starting your interior design business there?
It's been a pretty challenging journey for a couple of reasons. I think, one is that when you move to a new country, you don't have as wide a community or the connections to start a business, both from the business standpoint and as a designer, your resources are super important. So I didn't know a lot of vendors, local vendors or tradespeople. And then to add to that challenge, I was originally in Geneva, where I started the firm with my business partner, and I speak French. So that was very helpful. And all of a sudden, I found myself in Zurich, and I speak no German. And it's a very different culture despite being the same country. And so I think, you know, having to reestablish your network, both of clients and of, you know, tradespeople, was challenging. I was lucky that my business partner at the time, she had been in Zurich prior to me. So there was some groundwork to allow me to begin working without feeling completely lost. Um, but it was still very challenging, particularly because of the language. And I think not unique to Switzerland, but starting a business anywhere. I was also a new mother when I started the meaZure. And I've had 3 children in the lifetime of my company as well. And that, you know, finding the time to manage your family and your work is a challenge I think everyone can experience anywhere in the world.
Yes, when I was preparing this interview and reading your biography, I totally had that thought that she needs to manage so many things. It's incredible that she can do it all so well and um, do such amazing projects. Because it's a lot of changes to take in.
It is. And I think that's where having a network and wonderful people to support you is essential. No one can do this on their own.
Yeah, of course. Do you believe there is any fundamental difference in design process and style as well between the US and Europe and more specifically Switzerland?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't worked in Europe per se, so I can't speak entirely to that, but I do feel very American in my way of working here in Switzerland. I think, you know, here there's a tendency towards a lot of face-to-face meetings. A lot of things are done at distinct times, and I definitely have a much more American way of working where I'm much more technologically focused. I do a lot of my work through the computer and remotely, which has helped a lot in Corona, I have to admit. And I think because I was trained in the US, I look for vendors everywhere. I don't look for just local suppliers. And I think that's also a big difference for me. And then, you know, I think it's also with style, it's a big difference because, you know, when we think of American style, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what that is because the US is so huge and there's so many different regions. And, you know, when you think of design and architecture from homes in Miami, it's incredibly different to the homes in New England and, you know, the Northeast US or from New York to California. And something that I love about the US and design in the US is that it really is a reflection of this cultural mix. You find a lot of bold, bright, colorful design. And even in places with more traditional style, you'll find some modern twists or bold color palettes. And I think there is a distinction between that sensibility in the US and Switzerland, where, you know, Switzerland's obviously a lot more culturally homogeneous and it's a smaller country. And it's not to say you don't get variation here. You know, you have your typically Swiss chalet style, and it's not something you'll see, you know, in the middle of the city in Zurich. And you can see the influences of French, Scandinavian, Italian design here. And even, you know, famous Swiss architects like Corbusier and Herzog and de Meuron, where, you know, there's a modern minimalist twist to a lot of things here. So I think you have those sort of different aesthetics and the different ways of working that you definitely feel, or at least I feel as an American in Switzerland.
Yeah. Yes. Switzerland, of course, has all these differences, all small differences in cultures, depending on the canton that we are talking about. If you had to define Swiss taste in 3 adjectives, which one would you choose?
3 adjectives is really hard, I think. But I see, especially more recently, that real sort of minimalist, even brutalist style that you have, especially in the architecture in Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other things I think here that you see a lot is because of the Calvinist culture and influence, interiors aren't super flashy or bold and shiny. So you have a much more understated kind of classic modern style. I think understated would be a good adjective.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I've never thought about that influence of Calvinism or religion itself in interior design, but that's true. I believe that, as you said, it's not so flashy, but it's always very good quality materials and designs, and it's just not the outside that is that
Absolutely. I think that's actually a really
flashy.
good way to sum it up. I think quality is really important in Switzerland, and
Mm-hmm.
beautiful design is very much appreciated, but it just doesn't have to be quite so bold
In your
and loud
face,
in your
yeah.
face. Exactly.
Yeah, I think that sums up the Swiss style in a small amount of words.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can tell our listeners about a project you have worked on with previous clients of yours and some of your favorite memories of designing.
Well, I've been really lucky to have some amazing clients and projects, and even before I was in my own firm, to actually have some really amazing companies to have worked for. But I think one of my favorite projects that I've been working on has actually taken shape over the course of a few years because it was a home
Mm-hmm.
that was purchased by a young family here outside of Zurich. And we remodeled the home to, suit their needs and their tastes. And as time has gone on, actually with Corona, we've had the opportunity to readjust some of the
Mm-hmm.
design because the house is now being used a bit differently than it was originally intended. But one of the things that I love is being on site and working with tradespeople. And in this home, I was really lucky to be able to redesign their bathrooms, their
Mm-hmm.
kitchen, doing all of the material selection, designing some customized built-ins. And it was such a nice project because this was a large portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it was just really fun to work with a family. They had a distinct sense of style, but they were also, kind of adventurous and fun and whimsical. So we got to put in some fun wallpapers, use some really
Mm-hmm.
bold colors here and there. But the vibe was still, more modern, more clean lines, and yet fun.
Yes, I believe when you are designing for a home family, you have also to try to predict how it will evolve in a few years. Not just creating for
Absolutely.
that moment, but okay, the kids will grow, so
Absolutely. And that's
the
actually part of
decoration.
what we're redesigning. We had selected things for their bedroom where the furniture is still saying, but now we're updating, we're adding some fun wallpaper, maybe in one of the rooms where the daughter's feeling a little bit like she doesn't want so much pink, we're
Yeah.
toning that down and trying to change it up a little, but still keeping a lot of the essentials.
Hmm. Of course. So when it comes to choosing the right products, what are your main criteria to look for in a brand?
For me, a lot of what I source is dependent on the project itself because I really try and tailor everything, the furnishings, the style to the client's needs and to their budget because that's always a
Of course.
consideration. So when I do my proposals, I'm looking for a combination of style, functionality, and for some projects, the price point. For some
Mhm.
projects, it's great that you don't really need to worry about that. So this sort of combination of these things, but I think the underlying thing, and actually, as we said, what's so important in Switzerland is that quality.
Mhm.
Quality is really key because it's no use to have something that's beautiful if it's not well made and it's going to fall apart. And no matter what the price is, it should
Mhm.
be usable. It should be able to last.
Yeah.
And you know, I actually, like as a customer of furniture companies, I put a lot of value on the customer service because I started on the other end in this industry. I
Mhm.
also worked for a furniture house, and I know what it's like to deal with the architects and interior designers. And I think how a company handles their clients
Hmm.
and how they respond to issues when they arise is huge. And issues always arise. We're all human, but how companies deal with this for me is also a really big criteria in what I look for.
Yeah, I believe it's not really about the product because you can find products everywhere. It's about the service. That's what keeps the clients and keeps the people working with the firm.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Is there any particular Home Society products that you feel could complement your visual style in any way?
Oh yeah, I love the lighting across your brands. I think some favorites are the Horus 2 suspension light.
Mm-hmm.
I love that one, and the Hera suspension.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I think one of the first pieces that I saw was a Boca de Lobo Newton sconce, and it's still one of my favorites. And yeah, I'd love to do a project. Actually, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but with the Lapiaz console.
Oh yeah, perfect
I love
pronunciation.
that
Yes,
console. I would love to do a project with that. And I
very
don't know,
beautiful.
all the hardware from Fullcast. And
Yes.
I'm trying to find someone who has outdoor space so I can put the Olympus fire pit.
Oh,
I
okay.
love that one
That,
as well.
that's great. Yes, it's really a wonderful product for outside space, but you really need that outside space to put it
Exactly.
in.
Exactly. And there's a lot of
Yeah,
apartments here, so
yeah,
I haven't
yeah.
quite found that yet.
Maybe on a chalet, but maybe
Yeah.
they will look for a real fire in
We'll
that
have
case.
to see.
Is there, do you have any favorite current trend that has been around the interior design world that you really like?
Actually, I think what I'm loving right now in design is that people are letting go of trends. I feel like you're seeing more and more designers that are just, they're pushing boundaries. They're doing
Hmm.
things based on what they really feel is their aesthetic, and they're not tied to a particular period or like a geographical style or even a color palette. And I think the best place you can see that is on Instagram, where you can really find whatever you want. And, you know, it's almost like all the trends are prevalent now. So if you have a particular style or a particular taste, you can find it. But no one designer is just one way anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I believe that the social networks, Instagram and even Pinterest, really helped the
Pinterest.
people. Yeah, people understand that they don't need to follow. They can create their own vision and their own trends, fitting their needs and their tastes. Um, and I think it's great. I think
Yeah,
this
yeah,
more eclectic, maybe style or vibe, is really, really getting in the interior design world, and I believe it's
absolutely.
great.
And I'm loving it.
Yeah. One of the things, Leila, that I really I wouldn't say that surprised me, but I was really delighted when I read your biography is that you have become a traditional five-star feng shui consultant in order to further aid your clients in creating their dream homes. Do you feel that in general there is receptivity in integrating this knowledge in the design process of a space?
Yeah, I feel like feng shui became really popular, in
Mm-hmm.
Western countries over the last decade. And, when I talk about it with my friends, with my clients, the overwhelming response is generally one of interest and openness.
Mm-hmm.
But also because of that same popularity, there are a lot of generalizations and a lot of misconceptions. And when
Sure.
I decided to study feng shui, I was really lucky to come across a practitioner who teaches flying stars feng shui, which is
Mm-hmm.
traditional, and it is a very detailed way of looking at your home. It's based on when your home was built, and you really have to take an in-depth look at it, where it's sitting in the land, what is surrounding it, and it helps you understand and then remedy or enhance the energies that are within your home so you can reach your potential, and be supported by your house, both financially and in your health and relationships with more ease. And I think, when clients hear that, they're like, okay, sure, I want more abundance, I want better health. And I get a lot of, okay, what information do I need to give you? And I think from a design perspective, it really just further strengthens my goal of, creating a home. It helps you tap into the heart of your home, really, and it makes it so that your home doesn't just look beautiful; it feels beautiful. It becomes your ultimate oasis.
Yeah, yeah. I believe that it is much more of a systemic approach.
Yeah,
When you look for the history of the home, the place, also the people that have lived there, if it's
yeah,
if you're not building the home from scratch, uh,
absolutely,
and also seeing the home as a living space, a place with a
absolutely,
soul. That
absolutely.
as I said, integrated vision of several factors and a case-by-case study and analysis.
Yeah.
But if you had to give like 3 tips related to feng shui to improve the atmosphere of a house, what would they be?
Um, there's so many. I think one of my favorite tips is actually to start with your front door. This is where the chi enters your home. It's like the mouth of your home, really. And it's important to ensure that the path to your door is clear, that your door is clean, that it can open fully and allow that energy in. I think traditionally here, we live a lot in apartments, so you only have one door. But with homes in the US, a lot of people don't use their front door. They use their side door or their back door. And I think it's really good to also have that front door be inviting and let that energy in.
Of course.
And I think another tip is about your bathroom. So water is representative of abundance, and bathrooms are essentially where we flush away our water. And so this is a great place to introduce earth tones. You often see a lot of blue, which amplifies that water. Um, but what you want are, things to dampen the flow of the water, to stop it from draining out. So earth tones really help with that. Though, wealthy people tend to have more bathrooms, so who knows? But
Maybe golden tones could be a
go,
good option.
yeah, well, so gold falls in actually the family of metal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit different, but you see a lot of earth tones, even green, where wood actually soaks up some of that water. And I think the last tip I will share is for bedrooms, because I think this is really important for people to, remember that their bedrooms are where they're supposed to rest, where they're supposed to, restore themselves. And if someone's in a relationship, it's also supposed to be a place for romance. So what you put in your bedroom matters. A lot of us have our bedrooms filled with pictures of our family and our friends, but if you're in a relationship, you don't want your family and friends looking at you when you want to have an intimate moment. And you know
Yeah.
um, and at the same time, when you're trying to rest and relax, you don't want a shelf full of paperwork and bills, or you know um, exercise equipment, where it doesn't make you feel restful. So it's really to clear that space of the things that don't really fit those categories of rest and romance.
Of course, of course. That was a very insightful tips. So simple. I believe indeed it's core, but things that we don't think when
Yeah,
we are designing generally.
often things we might know in our hearts but don't really think about.
Yeah, of course. Still on the unconscious part of our knowledge.
Exactly.
So, Leila, just to conclude our interview, what is the best advice that you believe you could give to any designer?
I think, when I started in design a long time ago, it was a really individualistic community and or industry. And now you find community. You find a lot of designers who know each other and work together. And I think part of this comes from people realizing that we all have something to offer and we are all unique and that there's a client out there looking for exactly what we have. And there are a lot of houses, so the best advice, I think, is just be yourself, design with your own voice and your own vision, and don't look to the trends. Or there are people who can inspire you, but find your own voice in that. There's no need to copy, there's no need to follow, just be yourself.
Yeah. And as simply as it could sound, be yourself can be very challenging, but I believe that designers, as we said, are more and more distancing themselves from that follow the crowd trend and trying to find their own style. Also, with all these changes of the digital age and the multiple sources of inspiration that we can find so quickly in the internet and
Yeah.
everywhere, basically.
And it's still, it's about connection, working with
Mm-hmm.
your clients. So I might not be the right designer for one person, but I might be the perfect designer for someone else. And it's
Yeah.
knowing who you want to work with and who would work well with you, because what I have to offer needs to speak to you. And I think
Mm-hmm.
um, if I can tap into myself, and it, like you said, it sounds simple, but it's not always easy to really be
Mm-hmm.
yourself and believe in your own vision. So I think the more designers do that, the more people will have someone that they will love to work with.
Of course. It was such a wonderful interview, so insightful, Laila. Not
Thank
about
you.
only about Switzerland and design there, but about design process itself, as we aim to reach in this design talks interview, and a completely different perspective on the, for instance, advantage of ancient techniques like feng shui, and the insights it can give to design, to interior design, and to make a house become really a home. That
Yeah.
I believe it's the goal. So thank you very much for accepting our invitation, and hope to hear from you again very soon.
Yeah, thank you. It was really a pleasure. I enjoyed this very much.